Bob looks like he's like running around the forest, like he's
Oh,
like run, run away,
going on. Anyways, I've been trying
Whoops.
to
the
find a way to
scary movie
plug
stuff.
my phone in.
Like that one movie was, what was that one movie that was filmed? It was like they were on the camera.
The Blair Witch, the Blair Witch
Yeah.
Project.
He
Looks like
I
he's
hate
running
scary
around.
movies.
No,
Oh,
I'm
and
trying
like
to
now,
find my
oh,
cord to
okay, you're
plug in
still
my phone
there?
because this is going to eat my battery.
Uh,
Oh, okay. You're in darkness. So I was like, did we lose you? Okay, let me
No, I'm here.
pull everything out. I had to like write everyone's names down because from the case, because I like totally forgot. There was so many people. Okay. Okay, so I guess just to start off, we can just kind of jump right on into it. Out of the four, one, two, three, four, I guess 5 people, like the 5 kind of candidates for the job, who did you guys feel was the best fit with the company? Like, what were their good things? What were the bad things about them? What were you guys' thoughts on that?
Rena Shea,
You liked her?
absolutely. That was one of the things that I wrote as part of one of the problems with the case study was that her information was missing. They got a resume and stuff like that for everybody else in the job. She was up to speed on what was going on, including the power chip company that they had the upcoming deal with. I mean, and she was in place. She was there working already, doing it. And
did you say you picked Rena?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so did I. And
What the heck? I'm like the only one that did it.
and I wrote some bad stuff about the case study on my case study write-ups.
I just pretty much bashed Stephen Connor.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy with Steven either. If I didn't pick Rena, I went with Seth.
That's who I went with initially.
I would go with Seth. If we had to pick somebody outside of Rena, I would have gone with Seth because he was a straight shooter. He was ranked for the first time, so he's ready for it. But the problem, and they didn't really address this, and they didn't really talk about it, was Rena is doing the job. RSH mentioned that they had like a teamwork atmosphere. And I think the best way, to Bob's point too, to show teamwork is hire from within, because it'll boost morale for Rena. It'll also give the others an impression that the company, that everyone can be promoted, if they work hard. And it's kind of true that she's lacking experience, but it's not like she's brand new. And she obviously wants the job, so why not give her a shot? I realize it's a big step, but if she doesn't work out, then I guess you could do Seth at that point. But I just thought Rena deserves that opportunity, and it would help morale, and it wouldn't have a negative impact on the company. Unless that deal with the chip,
The power chip
company's power chip, unless she did a really bad job on that, and failed to get that deal. But I don't think that would necessarily happen. I don't know, but I'm kind of with Bob, and I kind of wrote into my conclusions, that Steven's put into a very difficult position, but how he handled it, hiring Rena to replace Peter, like right away, but then saying, "Oh, but you're not good enough," is essentially what he said.
right.
Is not the way to keep her from not leaving, right? So I just don't think that he handled it the right way that he should have.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking as well. He's promoted her from a junior to a senior analyst. Does he really think that when he brings in someone else that she's going to go back to being a junior analyst?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think about that at all. Because I felt like she wasn't talked about. And so I was kind of on the fence about her just because I didn't know a lot. I know that she knew the job. That's why I went with Seth. Because the first guy, forget his name. I didn't write his first name down. Baum.
Mm-hmm.
He was like just straight up rude, you know, like he was late, he was rude, he was kind of like, he was all about the pay and everything. I was like, okay, well, he has a bad first impression anyways. And then the other guy, I mean, I kind of agree with the case study that he was kind of old and might be like burnout, you know, like not have a lot left. And then Sonia, I just felt like she just like wasn't as committed as like any of the other candidates, you know, like any of the other people, like possible hirees. She was like, can I work at home? I don't want to go on trips. And I understand like wanting to have a family and everything like that, but like for this job, it just wasn't gonna work. So that's why I chose Seth, because I felt like he was the most experienced. I didn't know a lot about Rena, but you guys, I didn't really like think about it like that she would leave after, if like she wasn't hired, you know, like in the case study when they had that little conversation, she was already kind of bummed out about the whole thing. Like she was kind of like, oh, he's gonna hire someone else, and I'm gonna be out of this job, you know. But I didn't realize.
The case study kind of steered it towards you have to pick one of these people. It didn't really say that you couldn't pick Rena, but that's automatically where I kind of went. And I don't know if that's because, our business, Toyota, is kind of like that, to where, the people that are doing the work are the experts, so to speak. If that makes sense. And so you rely on them to tell you how you should manage kind of upwards, manage up, manage down. It kind of goes, both ways. And to see it happen the way this happened without a lot of, background, just seemed a little bit weird. And then I wish they would have given, I think they didn't really address like too much the root cause. Like I kind of wrote my paper up, like really figuring out, what the root causes is. Why did Peter leave in the first place?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't remember reading like specifically why he was leaving. To me, that is at the root of the cause of everything. And if anything that Steven needs to do is, once he replaces this, go back through and figure out the root cause for why he's leaving. Because we always like overanalyze stuff at my job, and that's the root cause, is figuring out why he left. And if it has to do with maybe he got pushed over for promotion or whatever the case is, doing that to Rena is not going to improve that whole situation. I wish they would have gone a little bit more down that path, because that's the root cause.
I agree. Sort of thing in my case study. People don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses. And so, you've got a deal here where I agree with you. Steven he's just jumping on board to kind of passing over this lady and then hunting around for all these people. And he like you said, he's not looking back and trying to figure out what the deal was. There were some people that mentioned that Peter had started to get a little money hungry and stuff like that. And so I think that was enough reason for him just to say, oh, he left. But, the other thing I noticed, he knew he was leaving, or at least had been warned a couple months ahead of time, and he didn't really do anything about it. And one of the
yes,
with that deal coming up with Power Chip, I would certainly not want a hole in my management at that particular time. He should have been recruiting ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and one of the questions on here asks, should Steven have let Peter go? But I don't even know if that wasn't even anything that was like brought up. I feel like he didn't try, but there also seems like there wasn't an opportunity to try.
Well, he had too much.
I don't know. Yeah, that is true. But had he already like put in his notice or something? I know.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Okay. So they give us this info. Let me see. in the questions, it's definitely leaning towards Rena. Like it's kind of pushing you towards that. So they gave us, so they had each person and they gave us what their current salary is and what their salary would be at RSH. So for Rena, it would stay at 0.3 million. For Sonia, it would increase from 0.4 to 0.7. Seth, it would be 0.7 to 1 million. Gerald, it's 0.9 to 1.2, and then David, it's 1.3 to 1.5. So I definitely think that Rena's kind of like the safest choice, you know, because it's not going to cost them anything to keep her. I didn't understand that. So she's already promoted at this point to the senior analyst or whatever it is. So she officially has that job title.
He bumped her up.
Okay, I have to move really quick. Sorry, my computer's dying. Ugh.
Yeah, so it's like, why is he gonna promote her and then be like, oh yeah, but no, that's just.
Did he ever
horrible.
tell her it was like temporary?
I never saw anything like that. I wondered that whether and does she even know that he's interviewing other people?
Yeah, because I remember a part in the case where it said like that she. Oh, I wish I had it pulled up, but where he was telling her about that he was interviewing and things like that. But I'm wondering just like if going into it, she knew that it was going to be so temporary, you know, or if he was saying, okay, we're going to hire you.
Yeah, my impression was that she kind of knew before he told her, like she had that kind of that inkling, like, oh, here it comes. But you don't necessarily know until, you know, it's actually happening. So I don't know. I think that he handled it. You know, if he wasn't going to put her in that job, he shouldn't have promoted her. In my opinion, like, I don't think that, you know, it's like, oh, here you go, here's a carrot, you know, but no, not really. I mean, that causes trust issues.
Oh,
causes
absolutely.
all kinds of problems.
Well, and it's even more than just a carrot. It's in reality, he's putting himself in her debt because him out in this particular instance. He's taken a long time with his interview and headhunting process, and she's this whole thing and getting it ready for that deal coming up with PowerChip. He couldn't bring any of those people in and get them up to speed in time for that deal to come through.
Yeah,
she's basically saving him.
She's the best person, you know. I don't know. I wish case study is kind of a difficult one because it doesn't really go into that, and like I said, it keeps kind of leading you down. You had to pick one of these other people, but I just kind of went with my gut.
Yep.
And then she's the safer choice. I mean, they aren't spending any more money. If they were to go with David, they'd be spending 5 times what Rena's salary is now. So it would be just kind of a waste of money if he didn't work out. And he's a jerk, so I didn't want him to like get the job anyways. He was so mean. But if Rena was out of the picture, so we kind of said that Seth was a good second choice.
Yeah.
The guy that was like kind of up and coming. What do you think he could have done to get more information? Because I feel like he didn't have a lot of information about him. Like, I guess kind of like do his research. Like, should he have done more research about him? I feel like he had more information about everyone else, and then this Seth guy came in. He wasn't really prepared for the interview, you know?
Right. Well, you know.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Just so the question that they ask is, should Steven have talked with the recruiter to ask about Seth?
To be honest with you, no. I think that's one of Steven's big weaknesses is that he leans so heavily on these other people. Yeah, they're recruiters, they're headhunters, they have a certain expertise. Your company. At some point, you've got to bring those people in, and it's got to be more than just having a meal in a fancy restaurant. You've got to dig in there and find out what's going on. And yeah, he brought him in to visit with people and whatnot, but it's almost like that's kind of what made me wonder whether or not Rena knew what was really going on. He conducted his interviews and his calls almost like he was on the sly. He wasn't open about anything. The calls that he made to people that he thought might know, it was kind of a thing. It was never just straight up, hey, I'm considering you for this job and this is what I want. He's not very decisive.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also, I agree with Bob. He's leaning on them quite a bit. And the thing that we have to remember too is headhunters, they make their money just by getting a person. So regardless of who they get in there, they're going to make the money no matter what. So it's not in their best interest to get the best candidate per se. It's in their best interest to get them somebody that's qualified to do the job. But, in this case, he has to actually go out and interview. I mean, it's not the headhunter's responsibility. They just find the people. It's the company's responsibility to find the right person for whatever makeup you have in your company, because you have all kinds of different personalities and you got to see if it's a good fit and not go so much with the recruiter or the headhunter, because they don't, in the big picture, they're going to get paid regardless of who gets picked.
Yeah.
Well, and it's tough too because like Steven wants to choose the best person and everything, and he really is kind of focusing on the other candidates. I feel like in his mind that Rena's already, just the temporary person. I feel like that's kind of why the case study focused on everyone else so much, because he already made up in his mind, like, she's just temporary, like, we're just gonna use her for now. Big thing that he's missing is that performance at one company doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're going to have that same kind of performance at RSH. Is it RSH? RHS?
RSH.
Yeah. So I think that was kind of a big thing that he was with Rena. He's seen her and he's seen that she's done a good job, but these other people, he's focused so much on their reputation and how they're doing at these other companies, but it doesn't really guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to transfer over successfully and same kind of reputation that they have at the current one,
Right. Yep. And
okay. Did you? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go right ahead. I was just going to say, one of the things that he's not really considering, I mean, he's already lost Peter, and so he's kind of operating with the last person that has any power chip experience in that job just long enough to make that power chip deal go off. She can throw senior analyst on her resume with that deal, and she can go anywhere she wants. That's portable. So he's really, and when you add up their salaries and stuff like that, he could bump her up a couple $100,000, put her up at $500,000, and keep her on board. And the amounts of money that he's looking at paying these other people it's ridiculous for thing about him yet.
I think that, am I freezing up on you guys?
No, you're doing fine. I think it's just kind of here and
Sorry,
there.
because it's been freezing up. Did you guys look at the sheet that had the different kinds of capital? Like the human capital.
Oh, yeah. Where is that?
I think it was in with the case study, but it was like the link right below it.
Right.
Yeah, it was the link right below it.
It is off.
I think we've kind of like touched on it.
Oh, I found it.
Because I feel like if, like with the whole capital thing, it goes from portable and rarely portable. I think that with Rena, that's kind of something that's really that she has company specific human capital, relationship capital that's not portable, that's not easy to bring somewhere else or for other people to bring into the company.
Right.
That's something that he was totally missing. He wasn't like looking at that. He was just looking at, he was so focused on having that person with the star title or whatever it is that he wasn't really focusing on that. But what are your guys' thoughts on the whole capital, different kinds of capital thing?
I don't think he was paying attention to that kind of stuff at all. I like what you mentioned there about like the relationship capital and whatnot, that is not a portable thing. None of those guys are really going to be able to bring too many people with them. I mean, yeah, there's always going to be some that are going to jump ship and go along. But they're not going to be able to bring what Rena, for example, already has with PowerChip. And then I think as far as some of the strategic capital and whatnot, yeah, it's portable, but once again, these guys don't really work there. They don't know. None of them are bringing juniors with them. Some of them came from companies so small that they had to share juniors. And so they're not, they're kind of just showing up as they are, and they're really quite, I think they're quite a risk. There's just no guarantees with any of them.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like the other candidates or whatever, I hate saying candidates because I feel like I'm talking about president. But kept bringing out, like Seth was bringing out his recommendations, and all these other people were talking about their experience, and that's that kind of moves up like on the often portable side, that it's kind of something that anyone can develop really quickly and anyone can have. And that's kind of where he was just sitting. He was focusing on the general and the strategic. I mean, you want to get someone obviously that knows the industry and knows how to run the job, but he was so focused on, he didn't focus on the other ones that aren't addable.
Right.
Yeah, I just went back through here so I can speak intelligently on this, and I reread some of these things. And one of the areas that I thought that he was missing was that relationship human capital, and that's where it talks about the manager's effectiveness to establish relationships, and it just didn't seem like he had that one. That one wasn't one that was key, and I think that's probably, I think Bob said it earlier to his point, is like people don't leave their job, they're not, if they don't have that relationship with the manager. You could have the worst paying job and but your relationship with your manager is great, you're probably going to keep that person. So it's not the greatest of environments just because you get along with the people that you work with. It may not last very long, because if you're making a really low wage, obviously you're going to try to look for something else. But the relationship is, and I think that was one of those areas that he was lacking in the relationship human capital. Was at least kind of what I saw. I mean, he's hitting on some of these other ones with the strategic human capital and the general human capital, but that only goes so far.
Yeah. Well, those ones that he hits on, those are the more portable ones, and the ones that he's missing on are those ones where you've got to develop that within your company, and like you say, people will want to stay with you because of those relationships. The paycheck is cool and everything like that, but you still want to go someplace where you like to be a part of what's going on, and he doesn't work at developing that.
Mm-mm.
And I feel like when we're talking about the relationships, all these other people, they were kind of worried like about these people moving companies that they had been with for forever, and that and I feel like it kind of shows how they might be towards their company, that they aren't going to develop those relationships because they're so close knit and they're really focused on helping each other out that, you know, when you bring someone in that's not willing or like willing and ready to develop relationships and work together, you know, it just kind of, it's going to cause problems. I feel like all of the people that we're interviewing were just so ready to like get out of whatever company they were at because they weren't as like attached, you know, like they didn't develop good relationships or have, you know, those kinds of, I don't know, relationships. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they're chasing money. You know, if you look at where any of them are coming from, or most of them, they're coming from smaller firms. They're coming from small knit groups, boutiques and things of that nature. They should be able to have very close working relationships with the people that they have. And so the fact that they're willing to bail out of that and come over here, it looks like they're just chasing money. And
from machine,
the other
like
thing,
they are.
yeah. And
like
the
they
other
all are
thing I
going to
got
get pay raises.
right. And when you bring these people over, you know, you're not bringing them over in an entry level position to where they get to meet everybody and work their way up. You're making them a senior analyst over a big part of your business. They have to be in charge. And so, you know, like you mentioned, a lot of them were talking about making changes and things of that nature. So it's not just that you're bringing in a new person who doesn't have much in the way of experience with your company and stuff like that, but you're possibly looking at stirring up a bunch of your other valuable people.
Yeah, that'd be my biggest concern.
Rena Shea.
Right.
I'd go for Rena.
Questions totally skew towards her. Like the case study skews towards everyone else. Obviously, like that's strategic that he wants us to kind of think outside of the box, but he definitely skews towards her, and she's
I mean,
the
I
smarter
think it
choice.
said she was there for like 3 years, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So it's not like she has, oh yeah, just, you know, here 6 months, even a year sometimes as an analyst is tough, but 3 years
Right.
is enough to understand the business, to know what's going on. And when it said it, I thought the case study kind of contradicted itself a little bit, because when it says, well, she's inexperienced, I'm like, 3 years? I don't know what kind of job that is, but 3 years doing a particular job doesn't seem to me like that's inexperience. Maybe if you're looking at the senior manager title versus the analyst title, thing that, you know, you look at and say, well, it's typically 5 to, and maybe that's an industry thing, but as far as the capability and whether or not she can do it in 3 years, you should be able to, you know, maybe not, you know, do it exactly like a senior analyst would, but you should be able to get most of that stuff down. I would feel confident, you know, in her, and I think it was 3 years.
Yes. It was 3 years. And I like the point that you're making. In 3 years, they should have been looking to move her up. Even if Peter had stayed, they should have been looking for someplace to move her up. That's, I mean, really, the only difference between her and those other people right now is that she doesn't have an II rating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, sooner or later, you got to get into that spot so that you can get one. Peter didn't always have one either.
Yeah.
He was really focused on that. Like that was, I feel like that was his one priority. Like he didn't think of anything else. He was just like, I have to have that star rating, find that star, whatever, you know.
Well, he
was so focused on.
Yes, you're right. He wanted to be able to stand on the 15th green and be able to tell all his buddies who he stole from who.
Yeah, exactly.
A pride complex.
Unfortunately, sometimes business is that way, and you're just like, really? But that's kind of sometimes how it goes. And rather than developing the business, I just think, you got that tunnel vision going on, and that's the only thing you're thinking of. And got a lot of really talented people that, if let's say Rena's the next Peter, I guess where she's not going to stay company, after what happened to her, promote her, and then almost like demote her. It's kind of almost essentially the same thing. Basically, it's telling the world, like, and especially in that industry, right? They're telling the world, like, oh, well, we promoted her, but she's not good enough. Work environment that anybody wants to stay in it and be a part of. If I were her, I would be gone. I would look for something else, or just not promote me. I think it would be better off if you didn't promote her and say, hey, you're not ready yet, rather than do what he did. Say, okay, well, now you're ready. Hey, you got another year under your belt. To promote her was not the right thing.
Right.
Because we're saying, well, we think you could do it, but not really. It's not a good way to manage people and business.
Yep.
Okay, so I think that's like the most cost effective and low risk. I mean, I feel like she has the experience too. I feel like he kind of counts her out because she wasn't always a senior analyst, He just counts it experience as like not being good enough. But she's been there. She's like been doing this. She knows people. She knows the work environment. I feel like that's kind of all we can say. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the case, on the people? Obviously, Stephen didn't handle it very well.
I think that whole I think Stephen Connor would go a long ways for his company, and maybe even to help the industry, if he was willing to be the investment banking firm without a star. And if he was just willing to he's got good people all around him. PowerChip isn't there because of Peter. PowerChip is there because they like how RSH does stuff. They're not putting that deal together based on one person. I mean, even if he hadn't left, he could have got hit by a bus. I mean, people don't plan big things based on just one guy. And so he would just really go a long ways to develop his company and spend a lot more time looking inside at obviously good people. When it talked, that one section that talked about no man is an island, it talked about all the different people that are part of helping an analyst do his job. And it even talked about the limits that they have. They can only get so much done in a day. They're no different than the rest of us. And so in reality, there's no star in that situation. It's an entire team of people that puts all that together and makes it work.
Yeah, that's a big deal, having the right team, and didn't really go into this, but I feel like they need to take more time into doing some type of associate opinion survey or something like that, something where HR gets involved and helping to create that group, gather all the people up and say, hey, what are your morale issues? What are your problems? What's wrong with the working environment? How do we fix it to avoid, people like Peter from leaving, and identify that reason and work on corrective measures, because people just don't tender their resignation. I mean, granted, he could be chasing money, but I'd imagine an analyst at a company that's very respectable that said that as well. They don't have a lot of turnover, so he's got to be decently making a good amount of money if there's not a lot of turnover. Can't be that bad for him to just tender his resignation. So, I mean, the only thing I think I would add was just that they need to identify the environment that caused him to leave and go into some more corrective measures and actions to prove that, so they don't lose, Rena and other people on down the road.
Is it working? I'm like totally frozen. All right. Well, I think that is pretty good. We got it done in under an hour. All right. Well, thank you for your thoughts and thanks for coming to this meeting.
Thank you.
I think that we did a good job and I recorded it.
Yes.
Nice
Should
job.
I just stop the broadcast, right? Like, and then
Yes.
that's it, and then I do the link.
Stop it, and then you go into your, I can't remember where it's at, but it's in your videos. Search your videos, and then the link, whatever you
Okay.
named it when you started it, it'll be right there, and then just cut and paste that into the